My name is Eli Pacheco. Unfortunately, Flipgrid didn't want to work for me. I tried 3 times and it kind of broke down there. So hopefully this works for you. Hopefully the link was good, and let's just jump into it. This is a reflection of my interview I did with the data science professional. I feel very lucky that I've worked in tech before, and so I know a lot of people that are still working there, and I know one specifically. They got his master's in cybersecurity and is now working in cybersecurity with a big tech giant. So I feel very lucky in that sense. So first question I asked him, what is the most technically difficult part of your job? Well, he told me that obviously the coding is very tough. You have to make sure that the code is up to standard at all times. But furthermore, the biggest issue is the fact that cybersecurity doesn't stop, right? Cybersecurity is 24/7. So he's getting a call at 1 a.m. that they have some sort of data breach. He's on his way to work at 1 a.m. and that's tough for anybody. Number 2, are there any ethical issues you might run into while performing your regular job? Now, he said that he is internal cybersecurity, which means he's dealing with stuff within the company, and especially with test devices. New device comes out, he has to make sure through and through that that's going to be a secure device. So for him, the ethical issues don't hit as deeply because you're dealing with just like the internal stuff. It hasn't hit the consumer yet, so this isn't necessarily going to hurt anybody. It's just going to hurt basically the bottom line, which is a little bit easier to parse through. Number 3, do you have any fear of AI doing more and more of your profession? He said absolutely. Everybody's a little bit afraid of that, especially in the coding sphere, but his argument is you always need somebody on the baseline. You always need somebody who's skilled in coding to actually like build a baseline for which these algorithms run. Number 4, how do you keep your skills sharp? What languages do you use, if any? How do you keep your skills sharp? He said you just work. Thing about working in a big tech industry is you're learning something new every single day. You're constantly educating yourself. So you're 24/7, you're working, you're actually keeping your skills sharp that way. New stuff comes out and you're interested in it and you want to study it, and so no matter what, you're going to be keeping your skills sharp that way as well. He said he primarily uses Python. He knows a lot of C, but he doesn't actually work with a lot of the hardware. Most of it is data analytics, so that means a lot of Python, a lot of R programming. Number 5, what happens when there's a major breach at your company? And this is where it got sort of interesting. He told me about a time where he accidentally pushed code on a day where it was a Friday night. He was real tired. He was really ready to go home, and he does a weekly 5K, so he was ready to do his weekly 5K. He was working on his code. It wasn't working. Well, finally, he changed something small. The code worked. Great. He doesn't have to worry about it. He pushes the code, slams his laptop down, and goes for his 5K. While he's on there, he has a smartwatch on. He's getting calls, 1, 2, 3. What's going on? He answers the calls. Very quickly, he realizes, oh no, how did I mess up? Because people are yelling at him. Something's going on. Essentially, what was happening was the code that he pushed went to the test devices, internal test devices. Those internal test devices were taking data that people put in applications, text messages to partners, so on and so forth. It was using that data, and it was sending them to random contacts in their phone. Really weird stuff for code to do in the first place. But he had no idea what was going on, so he raced home. He realized what he had done was that he pushed the code straight to the main line. The main line then pushed to the test devices, and that's when this started essentially causing a breach. Now, had this hit something like the consumers, this would have been a big story. This would have been on the news. But thankfully, this is what these tests are for. Went to the test devices, it messed everything up, and then he went into the code, he broke it down in pseudocode, and he realized where he had went wrong, fixed the problem, and then pushed it back to the main branch. Now, my biggest piece of reflection here is, this is when I realized that you just need to take your time. You need to be very specific about these sorts of things. Because had he just pushed the code into his own branch and not the main branch, he would have figured it out on Monday where he went wrong. But instead, he was in a hurry, he was ready to get off work, pushed it straight to the main branch, and that pushed it to the test devices, which caused all the problems in the first place. So he almost gave himself more work. So it's important that we be diligent about these things, especially as it comes to security and privacy.